10 days ago, I asked you, what should I post on Instagram? And you mostly said, photography tips. It's not something I usually do, but I wanted to gauge interest, and it exists. If you're watching this, you're probably on your phone, and if you're a photographer, your phone can be a really good camera and a really good additional tool. I am an iPhone user, but most of these apps do exist for Android as well. Welcome to my phone. This feels strangely intimate. Don't read my messages. Anyway, all the photo apps I have are here. First things first. The most important thing in photography is light, and the word photography also agrees. Coming Light is a very ugly app I use to determine the right time to go out and shoot. If I'm doing portraits, I always try to schedule them during a golden hour. If I want to do some long exposure nightscapes or cityscapes, I will do that during a blue hour. Plot twist: neither actually lasts an hour, and their time constantly changes based on the time of year and where you are on the planet. However, you never want to take photos when the sun is too high in the sky, because it results in flat images, people with raccoon eyes, etc., etc. So having an app to tell you when to go outside and when is the right time is a real time saver, and it makes planning so much easier. Next, Screw It. It's an app where you take a photo and screw it. Screw It gives you a lot of tools for manual perspective correction in your photos. It's not always the quickest thing, and it's not always necessary, but when you need it, you are happy it's there. VSCO is something you're probably familiar with. They've been around for a long time, and somehow whenever they lose relevance, they regain it for whatever reason. VSCO gives you presets and editing tools made to resemble film stocks, among other things. There's some AI involved as well. So, for example, the app can suggest you the filters it thinks would look good on the photo you've just loaded. And sometimes it works really well, and if it doesn't work, you also have a lot of other tools to tweak the result to your liking. Some of the tools are really good. For example, the exposure slider works really well. Some could be better. For example, I often find the HSL panel lacking a bit. Some are just non-existent. If you ever did any kind of more serious photo editing, you know how important curves are. Well, VSCO doesn't have curves, and I've been waiting for it for years. A good thing about the app is that it also comes with a built-in social network where you can see some really good work by other photographers. There's no FOMO, there are no influencers, there are no likes, so it's a bit more relaxed than Instagram. And if you're into street photography or any other more artistic kind of photography, you can actually see a lot of good work there. Moving on, Snapseed is very powerful, and it's probably the best app of all of these, especially since it's free, but I've seen people misusing it so much that I basically try to pretend it doesn't exist at this point. Snapseed is great if you're doing some basic corrections, but it's also very easy to go overboard. The most of the built-in effects tend to be too harsh. For example, don't do this. Halide is a really good camera app for your phone. Now, don't get me wrong, the built-in camera app works really well. It does a lot of really smart things under the hood, but it lacks certain things like manual exposure control, manual focus, the possibility to shoot RAW, even though iOS supports it. So that's where Halide steps in and gives you some more control. Filmborn and RNI Films both give you filters based on photographic film stocks, but with a lighter touch. Usually if you're using VSCO and if you're used to like their kind of like aesthetics, you know that it can be really heavy-handed at times, and these two are like very light, which is great if you want to do some additional editing after applying the initial filter. Now, Spectre is my favorite phone photography app. I have so many photos on my Instagram profile taken with it, and I probably have at least double that amount ready to be scheduled and posted sometime in the future. What does it do? Well, there's a certain thing that your phone's camera can't physically do: long exposure. With Spectre, you can do long exposures with your iPhone. Now, here's the thing to keep in mind. Because the shutter on your phone can't be open for too long, what Spectre does, apparently, is relying on your video camera. That means it's gonna look really wonky in the dark. So this is not the app you will use if you want to do like a proper night shot in the middle of the night, because it's just going to look grainy and weird. But on the other hand, this means that you can use Spectre to take long exposures during daytime. And that's not something you can do with your DSLR if you don't have an ND filter, for example. Of course, to use the full potential of this app, I will strongly advise you to get a tripod or a GorillaPod for your phone, because, you know, long exposures are tricky and it's very easy to get a shaky picture. If you want to be flexible and if you want to take casual long exposures while you're out and about doing something else and you just saw like a nice shot in front of you, this is the way to go. This is probably the app I use the most, and that says something. And speaking of computational photography, Focus is an app where you can take and edit photos with a depth map. So if you've ever taken a portrait mode photo on an iPhone, that's basically this. What Focus allows you to do is refocus your photo after taking it, or editing your shallow depth of field. I can change the size of the aperture, or I can change its shape. You can even see the map or repaint it in case it miscalculated. You can fake actual lenses. Prime is another editing app. They started really strong a couple of years ago by gathering photographers. Some of them I've been following on Instagram to like create looks for their app based on their own style or a certain mood or whatever. The looks are very subtle. They leave you a lot of space to play with. I don't know, I was really enthusiastic about the app, but I haven't really been using it for a very long time. Lightroom, I'm not going to tell you too much about. It's a part of the Adobe Creative Suite. It syncs to the cloud, so I mainly use it for phone photos if I want to like sync them to my main Lightroom catalog and then edit them there. But it's also like a very handy thing to have. I've been using it to cull photos after a photo shoot before like sending the pre-selection to a client. When you have an entire album of photos from a shoot on your phone, it's very easy to just like go and rate them or like delete what you don't need wherever you are, like sitting on a toilet or sitting on a train without like breaking out a laptop. So practical thing to have. I'm currently cheating on Lightroom with Capture One, which doesn't have a mobile app, and we'll see where that gets me. In the end, I have two remote apps to control my camera. One is the official Fujifilm camera remote. The other one is Cascable. Sadly, for this one, you need to pay a small monthly subscription, but it is more powerful. It's a very handy and a very feature-packed app. However, it does depend on your camera model, what you will be able to use. In the end, I use Later to plan my Instagram posts, but you might have already known that. And if I feel stuck with my hashtags, I use Focal Mark, where you basically input different variables based on your photo, and it spits out a hashtag block that you can just copy and use, or use as a starting point for your further hashtag research. These these are the photo apps on my iPhone 11 Pro. Do you use an app I should check out? Well, let me know in the comments, or if you have any questions about any of the apps that I mentioned in this video, also use the comments to ask me a question and I'm gonna answer to you directly, and who knows, maybe you give me an idea for another video. In the meantime, follow me if you don't follow me, or check me out on YouTube, or check out my blog, or, you know, clout.